Right, so we're gonna prep my skin for my foundation right now. The first thing I always do is go in with my e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. It's my favorite, and I always just go in part of my face. I don't do all of my face with it, and I will tell you why. Some of you might have seen in my last video, you know that on my nose area, I tend to get a little more sweaty. And my pores are a little more open, and my makeup doesn't stay as well there. So what I do is I start by I prime my face with this Poreless Putty Primer everywhere except my nose area. Okay. And then once I've done this, I want to make sure I let it dry. So I'm going to go in right now with what I put on my nose is that NYX Proof It Waterproof eyeshadow primer. We're not gonna focus. All right, so I go in with this NYX waterproof eyeshadow primer. I take the little wand and I put it on my fingers, just because I get better coverage that way. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and rub it all over my nose and underneath. So a lot of us forget underneath our nose. We want to make sure I get the sides, and I might need a little more sometimes. Okay, and then I'm just gonna let that dry and soak in for a good amount of time. All right. Some of you might be wondering who I am. I have no idea what I'm doing. I am a teacher from Massachusetts. I just love playing with makeup in my free time, especially during quarantine. It's been really great to play with. Also new at this whole like filming thing, so if I'm not looking at you and I'm looking off to different directions, it's because I don't really know what I'm doing yet. After I've let this set a little bit, I'm going to go in with my NYX Conceal Correct, and I use mostly these two colors for my skin tone. I am very pink with really deep set eyes, so I have really dark circles. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to I start with this pink color on my middle finger, and I'm going to look off camera here to put it on. I just kind of like rub it in with my finger, just along where like it's really deep set, this like kind of wrinkle. I try to rub it mostly along there. I don't want too much, or it's gonna get really cakey under my concealer when I put it over my foundation. So just like really carefully, and then I'm gonna go to the next side and I'm gonna do the same thing. Just gonna up in the corner because it's really dark in there. I want to lighten that, and then along where I have these like deep set circles, it doesn't fix it completely, but it really helps bring out those deep set circles. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this green. I'm gonna try to offset some of the red. I try to stick mostly to where I have my breakouts, which is right here right now. So I'm gonna put a bunch of that on my breakouts, and I'm going to let it sit for a second, and then I'm just going to put the tiniest little bit on my cheeks just to kind of like slightly offset that redness, like the tiniest bit. I don't want a ton or else it's going to look kind of crazy. Okay, I'm going to leave my nose alone, maybe do just a little bit of my chin. If I do too much on my nose, it just always looks insane and just like kind of flakes off, so I want to not do that. I let this sit for a little bit before I then kind of like try to rub it in slightly, but I don't want to rub it in too much. I still want it to look a little bit green, and these are kind of scabs right now because I'm such a picker and it's just such a bad habit, but I'm gonna cover these as much as I can. Right. Okay, so now I have gone and color corrected, and I'm gonna go in with my foundation. So again, I am using the Catrice HD Liquid Coverage. I use this in a warm beige. It's a little too dark for me, but it's because I haven't seen sunlight in forever because of quarantine. So what I do is I just shake it and I put a couple drops just like right on my hand. And I only do a couple drops at a time because I don't want too much and I don't want to waste product. And then I take my kabuki brush and I just start from the center and I work my way out. Always start from the center and I work my way out. It's a very high coverage for me. And so I want to make sure I do it very carefully. It's also pretty dry because it's a matte foundation. So if I leave too much on my hand at a time, it just dries up. And I want to make sure I come down my neck, kind of blend it in on my ears. Okay, you'll see a huge difference between these two sides. And again, my cheeks might not be fully covered yet. That's where a lot of that concealer plays in. So I'm just gonna keep going. I put a little more on my hand. Gonna build up this side and on my nose, and I just pat my nose, or else it really looks crazy. For some reason my nose is just like nuts. I try to avoid as much of my under eyes as I can, just because if I get too much of my under eyes, it looks too crazy. I'm gonna buff out and down, trying to make sure I blend. Okay. Right, so this might be too much coverage for some of you. I am a big fan of high coverage, full coverage foundations, mostly because I have a lot of redness. Okay, last thing I do is here, and again I try to pat as much as possible to start, and then I try to like kind of buff it out with my brush, just to build that coverage and then blend it in. Again, these are all just techniques that work for me. They might not work for you. I am still avoiding mostly my under eye and my eyelids, because that is where the rest of my stuff comes in. All right. So here we are at our foundation base, and we're gonna go ahead and conceal. Again, I am using this this kokie Be Bright Illuminating Concealer in light. This is what I got in my Ipsy, so I've been using it, and I just kind of like dab it and then swoop. The reason I do this is because I saw a video online about how the older you get, the more you want to like swoop upwards to kind of like lift your old age skin. I like to conceal my nose in multiple spots, so all the way down the bridge and around, to help me kind of like cover some of that bulbous nose. I get a little bit right here and then down on my chin. Alright, the next thing I do is I take my beauty blender. It's this shape beauty blender, and I also take my MAC Prep and Prime Fix Spray. I spray my beauty blender. That's what's really important here, is I spray my beauty blender just to dampen it a little bit, and then I go in and I blend out. So excuse me while I am blending. I want to make sure I'm looking at what I'm doing. Okay, you'll notice it brightens my eye up a lot. Right, and I keep going. Blending those spots in, and I'm gonna look real crazy before we end. It'll all come together, I promise. Okay, so I have concealed concealed. Just concealed. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to set my concealing powder, or my concealer with some powder. And I'm going to, again, take a dirty blender brush. I'm going to spray it with my MAC Fix spray, just to kind of wet it and get it a little damp. This is really important for the powder part because then the powder doesn't get too cakey. I go in with just this NYX HD finishing powder in translucent, and I just get it a little wet and I kind of like dab it all around. Just feels really good on my skin when I use the wet beauty blender for it, and it doesn't get too cakey. And I do that wherever I had concealer, and I don't do a ton. I know a lot of people are really into this like baking, and I love the baking, but just with this tiny amount, it just makes it feel so much better and look so much better. All right, my next thing is to go in and contour. Well, this is just kind of setting, and I use the NYX Wonder Stick in light medium. Nope, in medium tan, sorry. And I really only ever use the darker shade for the contour part. So I'm going to take that and I'm just going to kind of like draw on my face where I want like to contour, where I want the contour to be. My face is pretty round, and I kind of like to cut it off at the pass, you know, like, sounds weird. I try to like make it a little thinner, and then my nose is a little bulbous, so I kind of like to make it, I draw it to like a point. I should be a little more precise with this, but it's okay. I draw it to a point, and then I kind of shade those sides right there, just to kind of blend them in. And then I go back to my pink beauty blender and I wet the bottom, that very flat part with that fixing spray from MAC, and then I just bounce the beauty blender into my skin and blend in that contour. So this takes a little while, so bear with me. Now this, while I'm doing this is not my everyday look. I don't contour every day. I just contour for fun. Practicing it, I'm really not good enough yet to actually do it daily and make it look super great. My everyday look right now for work is a mess because I work from home. As a teacher, I'm not going into the building, and it sucks. I miss it. But it's not up to me. It's not up to our kids. It's really up to everyone else what we do. All right, so I have blended in my contour except my nose. I'm just gonna pat that in. Again, I use my beauty blender because it doesn't pull off any of my foundation. It bounces into that contour and keeps my foundation in place. And that's something that I've struggled with when using my kabuki brush. It's great for setting my foundation down, but does not keep it in place when I am contouring. Okay, so I have my contour on, and we're going to set my face with this setting powder. I do a couple of spritzes and then I just let it dry. And oftentimes I have this like really handy little like hand fan, and I just kind of like fan my face. That just speeds up my process. So I am ready to dust off some of I'm going to dust off as much of that setting powder as is left. Again, I didn't do a ton because I don't like a ton for baking purposes. And then I'm going to take the same fluffy brush and I'm going to go in with my my bronzer. I use this Polidor Bora Bora bronzer. I got this in my Ipsy and I really like it. So I'm going to go in with my fluffy brush and I'm just going to put it where I put my contour, nice and light. Okay. It's not summer here, it's winter, it's cold. I do not get a lot of color, so I don't want a ton of color on my face. I just want like that slightly kissed glow so I don't look dead. All right. And then I'm gonna like just like pinch it a little bit to get down my nose. I want to make sure I get my nose, but I don't want it like too fluffy on my nose because it'll ruin the rest of it. All right, now we are ready to move on to my eyes. I always do my eyes and then I go on to do blush, highlight, and lips. Before I do my eyes, I need to prime them. And in order to get myself ready to do that, I'm going to go in one more time with my wet beauty blender and some setting powder, and I'm just going to dab it underneath. The reason for this is to try and catch any fallout on this powder and not ruin my makeup. Lots of people like to do their eyes first. I don't, for whatever reason. So I have done recently quite a few different things with my eyes, and I want to try something new for you guys today. So I am going to start with this Maëlle, I think that's how you say it, Maëlle Sun-Kissed eyeshadow, and I'm going to put that just right in my crease. This is one of my favorite crease colors, so I use this really fluffy crease brush, and I'm going to be looking in a mirror so that I can not screw this up. Okay, so I just get a little on my brush and I windshield wiper it back and forth. Okay, and once it looks like it's covered, I'm going to do the same thing on the other eye. I'm going to turn this way so you can see some of that. Oh, I screwed up a little bit because I didn't have great light. I need a little bit more on this side. Again, I have no idea what I'm doing, so just excuse me. All right, I am going to then I'm then going to go in with a bit of a darker brown shade. I'm going to go to my NATURAL palette from the Balm, and I'm going to use the shade in here, Sultry, and I'm going to use just like this really tiny shader brush and go in my very crease, like very crease, just to darken that a little. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on this side, very crease, just the very crease. I look crazy while I'm doing this. Probably making weird faces. All right. Just add a little bit there. All right, so I have done that. Hopefully they look the same. We'll see. Is what it is. Okay. Then I'm gonna go in with, I want to try this really like purpley, just really cool kind of colors today. Might look good, might not. All right. I'm gonna go in now with the same shader brush but the flatter side of it, and I'm gonna take from my Balm palette the color Sexy. It's this like really cool like purpley maroon color, and I'm gonna go in and just pat it in a V in my corner. That's all I'm gonna do, is just pat it in a V in the corner, the very outer corner. I'm gonna do that on both sides. I got a little further on this side, so I'm gonna try to even them out as much as possible. Doing my best. All right, and then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna take this like flatter eyeshadow brush, just a typical eyeshadow brush. I'm going to wet it with my MAC Fix spray just because it helps the pigment stick better. And I'm gonna go in with this color. It is IBY, I want to say IB, who knows, eyeshadow in Headliner. It's this like really pretty metallic kind of color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that and I'm just gonna dab it in that V ever so slightly, just like ever so slightly. Just kind of add a little shimmer there. Just like very slightly here. I think it looks good. Who knows? Let's try this side. Dabbing it ever so slightly there. So it's not the whole thing. It's just like a little bit of shimmer, not super shimmery. All right, because then we're gonna go in with this like crazy shimmer shade, and I'm gonna find my best brush for this. I'm gonna take this other eyeshadow brush that I like love to pick up pigment that I got in my Ipsy. It's a shadow brush. I have no idea who it's from. It's pretty flat, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna spray both sides. I'm gonna let that get wet, and I'm gonna use this purpley color from I&M. It's called Super Base Velveteen Dream Shadow from I&M Cosmetics, and it's this like light purpley. It's a pretty cool shade, and it's just very light. So I'm gonna go in and I'm going to pick up as much of that pigment as I can with this wet brush, and I'm gonna dab it in the corners and out. I start in the corner and work my way out, and you'll notice it kind of just like blends in really well with those darker colors. Do the same thing on this side. I'm going to start in the inner corner and dab out. I never like rub my eyeshadows. I always dab them because it just keeps my eyes looking a little younger. I'm going to go back in with a little bit of a less dense brush, just like to shade in with this other shimmery color, this same one here, and just kind of like make sure there's no harsh lines between those shimmers. It just is helpful to make sure there's no harsh lines. All right, so there's my eyes here. And then I love a good wing, but yeah, let's do a liquid thing. Liquid wing. Let's do it. Let's speak today. All right. I am going to go in with this new liquid liner I got from illamasqua, I believe is the name of it. Not really sure. I think that's how you pronounce it. I ordered their foundation. It was way too dark for me, but I did get this free liquid liner with it, and let's try that. So what I'm going to do is when I go in with my liquid liner, I start by just making my wing really small and drawing to my eyes. This way I have a lot of control about what I want. I want to make it a little bigger. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to drag it a little bit further up. And then I come from this side and I just kind of like wing it. I get it? Wing it. It's a really slight wing. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to like start where I want it. And again, obviously, I'm never going to get these even. I just can't do it. But I like where that is, so I'm going to kind of line it from there and line the rest of my eye. Alright, now I am notorious for not knowing what I'm doing, so I'm going to just make this a little more dramatic. and fill in right by the lashes because I tend to forget that. Okay, and I have to clean up a little bit right here because always got something going on. I'm gonna clean ever so slightly right here. Just kind of smudge it in so it's barely noticeable. And I'm gonna go back in with the darker shimmer brush, the same one I was using to put it on. This one, it's already got some on there, so I'm just gonna like dab over it. The reason I dab over it is just to make it look less harsh and a little more uniform with the rest of my eye. Okay. All right. Here is where some cleanup needs to happen because sometimes I'm a mess, so I just like dab where cleanup needs to happen. I'm gonna have to edit this part because I look crazy. All right, looking great. Okay. All right, so after this, once I've done this, sometimes I need to take a little concealer brush and kind of clean up. So I go in to this like NYX palette, and I do the like really light concealer with a concealer brush. It's not my concealer brush. Like a very, very light conceal. We're screwed up because we're human. And we mess up sometimes. Just a very, very light amount to just kind of cover up where I messed up. All right. Now, we are ready to go in with some mascara after I line the very bottom. So I love to take this very flat liner brush and I tend to dip it into like a matte black or one of the darker shades that I've got on my eyes. For this one I'm going to use the matte black just because it's going to blend in with that black liquid liner. And then I go in with this more of like a shader kind of brush and I'm just going to like smudge it so it's not so harsh. Alright, I don't love like waterline stuff just because it kind of irritates my eyes. But now that I've done my eyes, I'm going to go in with my mascara, which I am using currently the Tarte Big Ego. I got it in my Ipsy. It's cute. I don't hate it. And I'm just going to go in and mascara a little and let it dry. I like to go in with a couple coats, but I do my very last coat, like when I finish everything else. Alright, so here are my lashes currently, and then we're going to go in and we're going to finish off our face before we do another coat of that. My next thing I need to do is my brows. My brows, I have messy brows. You'll notice I have a half a brow. I have half a brow. So I'm going to go in with this Item Brow Chow pencil in medium brown. And I just kind of like, I need another mirror. I just kind of like carve as close as I can to my eyebrow. To my natural eyebrow. Oh man, that's wrong. I'm going to fix that. On both sides. This one's kind of hard to work with. Okay, there we go. I'm getting it. There we go. And I kind of like fill in this part here. I'm going to have to go in and fix this because yikes. Alright, So I'm going to fill in as much of it as I can. I'll fix this after. I'll show you how I do it. So I've filled in this one. It looks great. I'm going to brush it out. So it just looks natural. Same thing here. I'm going to brush it out so it looks natural. And then, because, you know, we all make mistakes, I'm going to go in and I'm going to cover this up with some concealer. I'm going to take a thinner concealer brush and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dip that same concealer I used to fix my eyeshadow. And I'm going to wipe it. See, it just like cleans it up so much. Okay, and then it's a little bit light because I didn't fill it in all the way. And I'm going to go just correct that tiny little bit that needs a little more color. And I've fixed it. So here's the thing. We all make mistakes, all of us. And that's why we got to be able to fix them. We want to know what we're doing to fix those mistakes. All right. Now, I have done almost everything. I am in need of some serious highlight. So I am going to take my Ofra highlight, which I love, love, love. This is in SOHO. And I take this like little fluffy brush and I'm going to just like dab it on my cheekbone, like right under my eye. Dab it on my cheekbone. I just love highlighter so much, so I love a lot of it. And then what I'm going to do is I take my finger and I do right under my eyebrow on both sides. I'm going to do my nose, like a cute little button nose, my Cupid's bow. And then right inside my tear ducts, like right here. And then sometimes I like to put like just a little bit where that huge shadow is for my really deep set eyes. And then I have my beautiful highlight done. And then I'm going to go in with blush. And I like this Pixi Petra Beach Rose. It's not super pink. I'm so pink as it is. So this is a better for my skin tone. It's very subtle. You'll notice it's a very subtle. And I go in like right at the top of my cheekbones. I don't like to do this thing because then I'm like highlighting or I'm blushing here and that looks crazy. So I just do a little here and then I'm set. So next thing I do to finish off my look, I'm going to just set one more time, just like a tiny little bit, like the tiniest amount. Just blends everything together. And then I like to take a lip mask and put a little bit on one of these like lip doe-foots. And it helps me just like get off anything left on my lips. The reason I want to do that is because I find things sit better on my natural lips than they do on like foundation lips. Alright, I'm going to take my lip liner, which is somewhere here. Guys, I'm a disaster. Alright, I'm going to take a lip liner, which I can't find anywhere. Why can I not find it? Here it is. Sorry. We'll fix that. This is the jontéblu lip liner natural beige, and it's just a pencil. I love, love, love. And I just line the exact outline of my lips. For me, overlining makes me look like a child who got into her mother's makeup, and that's not really my style. this lip liner for me just really helps things stay in place, which is super important for lips. You don't want your lipstick running all over the place. Just gonna add a little more. Just be sure I have that outline very well. So you'll notice like my lips look even bigger just from outlining, and I only outline my exact lips. I don't outline outside my lips because if I do, again, I'll look great. So this is a pretty harsh eye look. So I'm gonna go with a more nude lipstick. I really love this. I don't even know how to say this. Illamasqua in Cosmic. It just looks so good and natural. And I just put it on. Alright, so not natural, but it's more of a nude. I just put it on exactly where my lips are. And then to give it a little bit of something, I love this Estate Lip Icing in Drip. And to make my lips look a little fuller, I kind of just dab this doe foot right in the center here. And that's it. Okay, so here is my final look. I'm gonna just show it. All right, what do we think? Let me know in the comments. Follow, share. Let me know what you want to see me try. I am all about trying new products and things that are affordable for everyone. Thanks so much for joining me in this. I know it's like crazy how much I do in one amount of time. But yeah, like, follow, share. Let me know what you want to see, and thank you so much for joining me.